Hey guys, welcome back to Wine and Wine. It's me, Sam Loy. Tonight I'm here without my co-host Russell Cutting because, well, I thought we would try something a little bit briefer and a little bit more relevant to some just things that have played out over the weekend. I was lucky enough to play this deck on the weekend and win some money, and Russell played with me with the same, 75. It went a little bit better for me. I was a little bit luckier, and I am the deck's designer, quote unquote, although I very much did not come up with this strategy. So I thought I would just cover this in terms of why I think it's really good in Historic moving forward, or why you may want to give it a go in Historic. There's a couple of packages in here which I think would be really relevant to a lot of decks, even if the metagame changes a little bit. So let's have a look at it. So what we have here is a deck I call Blue-Red Creativity. Basically, it's a great, an Indomitable Creativity deck. We've seen a couple of them, mostly blue, white, red, in Historic, and those decks have done pretty well. The difference with this one is that you have a kill that happens super early. Most of the other decks go and get, I can't remember the name of it, but it's an angel that gives you protection from everything. And this one instead goes for a more of a Splinter Twin type win. So what we have is Locust God and Sage of the Falls. Sage of the Falls allows you to draw a card anytime a non-human enters. Draw a card, discard a card, of course. And every time you draw a card, Locust God makes one of those non-human creatures, but they do also happen to be 1/1 flying haste creatures, so you do win on the spot. So basically, you Indomitable Creativity, get these two pieces, you're good to go, you've won the game. Very nice. The thing with this deck that's, I feel, the most interesting is that we didn't design it from the perspective of being a combo deck. That's just a good package that wins the game. That's how I feel about it anyway. And what I've been doing since Historic got Jumpstart Historic Horizons into it is playing a lot of creatureless control decks. And one of the reasons I've been playing a lot of creatureless control decks is because I'm a huge believer in this card, Unholy Heat. Unholy Heat may be better than Lightning Bolt. I know it's a hot take, but this thing does a lot of similar stuff to Lightning Bolt, but also the numbers on it are a bit larger. So, early game removes creatures. It's a 2 instead of a 3, so that's a problem in some formats. Not so much in Historic. There's not many 3 toughness 1-drops, for example. If any, I can't really think of any. Maybe Old Growth Dryad, something like that. Anyway, there's always a corner case, so let me know if you spotted it. I suppose Hard Evidence makes one of them even. But as the game goes on, this goes up in power, and it starts removing things like Teferi. And Teferi is a card which was very previously difficult to remove and something that would decide control mirrors. Since this card's been printed, I don't think I need to bother with Teferi. I just want to have this card in my deck. So, that's one of the big reasons. The other big reason is Archmage's Charm. This card is so incredibly powerful. The 3 modes are very reasonable modes, I think. They're all good modes, but particularly in this deck, having the ability to play a control spell that allows you to further a control plan, but also that you can steal stuff with the last ability and then sacrifice it to Indomitable Creativity is a huge deal. So this is basically, in every way, a better version of Prismari Command. So Prismari Command makes a token on it, which is really nice when you're trying to, combo off with Indomitable Creativity. But Archmage's Charm is much better than that because you're stealing something and maybe you're blocking one of their 2 1-drops with one of the 1-drops that you stole or something like that. So they got 2 1-drops, you steal one, block, cool, that's great. You're getting some value against aggro, against control decks, counter target spell and draw 2 cards is fantastic. Also steals Shark Typhoon Sharks, which sometimes is what decides control mirrors and all the rest of it. So the combination of these 2 cards and this general strategy is, I think, very powerful against control decks, and it also gives you a lot of outs against aggro decks, because sometimes a very fast clock will result in you not having an out, not having a win condition that can burn off the top of the library, or maybe vampires being sacrificed to Sorin, something like that. Any sort of reach, haste creatures, all the rest of it. Even if you're losing the game on board, and you would normally lose as a control deck, this deck has an out, which is just killing them. And that's really nice, and I like that a lot. Against control, you're playing a lot of cards which are presumably, well, you would assume they're anti-aggro cards like Unholy Heat, but the way that decks are constructed at the moment, and I think this is a mistake, is that they're still playing cards like Teferi in it, and Teferi just loses to Unholy Heat. So you just get to remove it, and that no longer decides the game. And it also removes Sharks and all the rest of it. So I really like the position of this. It went really well for me. So I hope you guys enjoy it as well. So give it a run if you like. I'm just going to quickly cover the sideboard. Most of this is pretty simple. We have one Sweltering Suns and one Storm's Wrath. I used to have 2 Storm's Wrath. Made some choices there. Just wanted another one to cycle. You end up with a lot of Wraths in your deck, so you don't want to get overwhelmed with, sweepers or whatever you would call it. A couple more Narsets, which go really well with Commit to Memory. Commit to Memory and Narset is a combo which works really well against control decks. Basically, you cast Memory with a Narset out, and you draw a new hand, and they don't. It's fantastic. That's a soft win against control. Shark Typhoon's obviously good there. Pact of Negation, Mystical Dispute, similarly good in the same spots. The most interesting choice, I think, that I've got in here is Elish Norn. Elish Norn is not something that you just bring in against aggro, so don't do that. It is very good against specific decks. And some decks which are more creature tribal decks is sort of where you want it, but not all of them. So if you're playing against Merfolk, this is probably actually not the answer there. That's a very hard matchup, to be honest, but that's not going to kill everything once they start getting Lords out, but against Elves it will, and against Shamans it will. So if you're worried about those 2 decks in particular, hey, it's only one sideboard slot, and it'll get you some free wins depending on the matchup. Nezahal is the other alternate piece, but that's simple. I think that most Indomitable Creativity decks are playing that in the sideboard, so no news there. So yeah, guys, there's some weird choices in here, like I've got a Disruption over a Memory Lapse and all the rest of it, just to increase the land count, all the rest of it. I did a lot of iterations with this deck, so I'm pretty confident in the deck list, but hey, if you felt differently, you really like Memory Lapse, I wouldn't call you crazy, because I think that's something that I did for the most time as well. Anyway, that's it. Went really well, as you can tell by this obnoxious symbol up the top, which is, I don't know why that's there. Maybe we're just flexing on people with that. But anyway, thanks for listening, guys. I hope you pick it up. Give it a run. If it's in your wheelhouse, try it out. I don't know if this is everyone's deck or anything. If you're more of a creature player or all the rest of it, I'm sure you have some very powerful decks available in Historic. But if you're one of the people who've been trying the creativity decks, especially the blue, white, red creativity deck, maybe give this one a go instead. I do feel like you pick up a lot of points against the other creativity decks, and I had a pretty good go with it. So let me know how you go if you give it a try, and thanks for listening. I'll catch you guys later.